So here we go. I have started the recording. I will put this up also on our YouTube channel for PM VRTTA. So I just shared the link to the WhatsApp group if you're not a member of the group, and also the YouTube channel. See, PM VRTTA is an initiative that I started last year, where I started conducting some refresher sessions mainly for PMP, but not only PMP exam topics, but also generic project management topics which may or may not be part of PMP exam. The idea was, see, for me in twofold it is useful. One is, of course, I'm a regular trainer, a certified. Okay, I'm not an ATP authorized trainer, but at least before the ATP program came, I have been a trainer, PMP trainer for at least two different chapters, PMI Chennai and PMI Kerala chapters. But then also now for West Bengal chapter, I'm part of the I'm an ACP trainer, and not only this PMI chapters, but I also do quite a lot of PMP trainings within my organization Bosch. I work at Bosch as a program manager in automotive engineering, automotive steering domain. And so what I thought was, maybe also selfishly to enhance my training skills, I felt the more and more I train, the more and more I share my knowledge, the better I become at training, because training and teaching and everything is my passion. But at the same time also knowledge, because just because you cleared your PMP examination, right, doesn't mean you know everything. How many of you here who have cleared your PMP examination can, when you wake you up in a sleep, right, and ask you about some PMP topic, can easily talk about that, every single topic? None of us, not me, not you, not anyone. So I thought, they say usually, right, when you're sitting in a training session, you just are listening, right, to the people who are the trainer. You get only 20 to 30% of the knowledge. It's a message also to all of you, request. But then when you ask questions interactively, you learn 50%. But then when you start implementing it in your daily life, in your work and everything, you learn 80%. But 100% you only learn when you start teaching it to others, because there's a difference between writing the PMP examination, which is like Kaun Banega Crorepati style, right? It's a multiple option, even by fluke. You know, it's an exam. So in any of the PMP trainings or ACP trainings, any of the so-called exam preparation trainings, the aim is not to make you an expert on the topic, but only to prepare you for the exam. It's an exam preparation training. So they teach you just enough for you to get a certification, and that's good enough. Because just because you are certified in something doesn't make you an expert. It's just it's experience as you implement the concepts, and then you teach more. So I thought maybe by teaching more and more, I also have a chance to learn, share my knowledge on one side, self-actualization, right? Maslow's fifth level of the hierarchy, but also to learn. That's how we started this PM VRTTA. The WhatsApp group has 100 plus participants. The YouTube channel also has 100 plus subscribers, which allowed me to also customize the name of the channel to PM VRTTA. Thanks a lot, all of you. So, but you know, something happened with PMP examination. In 2021, on January 1st, two things happened. One is, of course, the new syllabus, as Srihari rightly said, the new syllabus, or new, not syllabus, I would say new exam pattern came up. Same PMBOK 6, same Agile practice guide, but the exam pattern, 50% hybrid Agile, 50% traditional came. But another important change is ATP. So ATP basically means authorized training partner, where just about any previous registered education provider, right, a PMI chapter or a training institute, just like that anybody cannot do the training. They have to undergo the ATP program, and then the institute will be authorized as an ATP, and the trainers themselves need to be authorized as authorized trainers by an ATP. I did not choose to go for an ATP as an authorized trainer because I didn't feel the return of investment was really good, the amount, the money and all the efforts and everything at this moment in my career. So, and also now I could not do any more PMP trainings for the chapters, and also somehow because of the new exam pattern that came up, the interest in PMP was at its peak just before the exam pattern changed, November, December 2020, and then it waned. There are people still doing their PMP in the new syllabus, like some of you here, but they used to go directly for heavy trainings, basically with an ATP, and I also got busy with my work, so I never had a chance to do these sessions. But then I felt, you know what, the purpose with which we started this, it's still valid. PMP, see, it is not a PMP training group, PM VRTTA, it's a PMP refresher and knowledge sharing group. So even if you're a PMP, you can still learn a lot of project management, experience, share and everything for your real life. Then there is ACP also, ACP bandwagon. So what I thought was, let us discuss not only about PMP for those who may really need it, but ACP also. So it can be a mixture. But the only issue is if I have to start making preparation, right, prepare a slide, I'm very lazy, not, and also time is very tight for me, my bandwidth. So I did not find time nor the motivation to prepare a slide. That means to have a topic either with or without a slide, that was a bit too tedious. So what I thought was, let us just kickstart the discussions on PM VRTTA, because even after many of you completed your PMP examinations, you are not left the group. You are still there because you understood the purpose of the group. To do justice and to respect the fact that many of you are still there, and to, how to say, keep the spirit, the spark alive, right? I thought let us kickstart. So we have reasons we don't want to do a topic, we don't want to create a slide or something, but let us do it in a different format where you still have questions, I still can help you out. So why don't we do it in a question and answer session? They call it as a hot seat format, ask me anything. So this way we don't have to fine tune on one topic for a session. You can ask me about any topic actually related to project management. Could be PMP, could be ACP, could be traditional or agile project management. For PMP, for example, your real life project management, you can share your experience, and we will also try to bring in experts and experienced people on some topic. If you say, hey Bhuvan, I want to talk about this topic a bit in detail, say for example, one of you was asking about agile contracts. See, I'm also recently ACP pass out, right? In on 14th of April, that's a little more than 2 months back, I got my ACP. So I don't claim to be an expert anyway, and I don't have too much of experience in doing agile, in working on agile projects. So if you say you want some topic, right, where experience counts, we can bring in those people slowly. The main thing is we just start the PM VRTTA, the discussions, hook or crook, and then see how it proceeds. I hope this is also okay with you. This way we spend a weekend, right, Saturday or a Sunday, 1 hour. Anyway, we are all locked up at home, right? We are working from home 24/7, most of us, and Sunday 1 hour we can spend in sharing our experience. So that's the background of restarting this series. Of course, all these discussions I will also post on the YouTube channel for those of you who may have missed. So with this, let's open up. So whoever wants to start with a question or a topic, please ask. We can have a free flowing discussion. If I'm not able to answer the topic, I will accept it. Maybe, sorry, actually I am not sure, but then we can how to say, we'll look into the topic, and maybe we can have another session, or we can do it offline also if you wish. On offline means not just one to one, but also on our PM VRTTA, the WhatsApp group, right? We can continue our conversation. So how do you want to start? PMP, there are some PMP candidates here. I know that there are some ACP candidates. There are some people who want to discuss general project management. I see a good mix, the 7 or 8 of us. So how do you want to do it? Where do you want to start?
Any? I think agreed with respect to the meet and 1 hour, spending 1 hour to share our experience. No question on that. I think one point I had was on this agile contractings, but yeah, if we have some other things which could be taken up prior,
We
I'm
can also
okay
do
with it.
that. Why not? We can discuss to some extent about agile contracting also. Uh, yeah, anyone wants to maybe have another topic to start with, or we can get into the topic about agile contracting. Even if you're only a PMP candidate at the moment, it will still be useful for you. Yeah. Okay. So what we can do is maybe we can start with very quick. See, as I said, I don't claim to be an expert in agile practices, but slightly we can touch upon. Maybe we can touch upon basics of contracting as per PMBOK, because remember, at the end of the day, ACP is another PMI certification. Just like PMP, its foundation is also PMBOK guide plus agile practice guide. And the concept of project management, the paradigm, right, of project management is the same. It's not mandatory to have a PMP to do ACP, clear, but if you have PMP, your experience of generic project management is not asked again for your ACP application. And also ACP builds upon PMP, in the sense that many of the concepts you talk in agile, they assume that you first do traditional project management and then adapt yourself to agile environments. For example, contracting is one such thing. It assumes that you have a basic idea of how contracts are made, about how chartering is done, for example. It's the same whether it's a traditional and agile project, right? The philosophy is the same. Slight fine tuning you need to do for agile environments, for example about how frequently things change, how short the development cycles are, how frequently you introspect, you retrospect, you give a demonstration or you review with the customer. All these things change, but the basic philosophy is still the same. So my recommendation to anyone who is doing ACP exam, or even if you don't have a PMP, right, your first time you are into the PMI-ACP, because project management you may be an expert but you don't know PMI-ACP, please go through PMI-ACPs. Rita Mulcahy, the reference book for PMP, is good enough also for ACP. Of course, Mike Griffiths, which is from the same stable, right, Rita Mulcahy Corporation, that follows or takes up from RMC of PMP, Rita Mulcahy book of PMP exam prep. So let us see very quickly what procurement management is all about, because contracting is a part of that. What is the main thing? Why do you need a contract? And what is procurement management? Very quickly, I will talk about the entire cycle of procurement management. See, in the middle, if you have an echo or you simply lose me or only my face is visible, no voice, please indicate me either on the chat, or if the chat is not working, please indicate on the WhatsApp group. Those of you who are in the group, please, yeah, I will check it. So procurement management basically in PMBOK, right, in PMI parlance, it's about dealing with entities outside your organization. Outside is a keyword, meaning unlike in other areas of project management, here you are going to engage someone who is not part of your organization, who may not subscribe to your organizational policies, procedures and everything, where you are outsourcing the work completely. You are either making a good part of it yourself and buying components or services from outside, or you are completely giving it to an external vendor. What is so significant about this? Number one, project management control is not with you. All this initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, controlling, closing, it's not with you. The entire cycle of project management is done by the external organization. They have a project manager like you doing it, who will be your counterpart, and to him or her, with him or her you will have regular touch points, and then you will be monitoring the progress. You will have some KPIs, key performance indicators you will be setting, and then metrics, right, for example, and then you you are more as you are the customer for them. So you are switching your hat from a supplier or a project manager of the organization to a customer, to your supplier. Now here contract becomes very important because two different organizations, two different legal entities are involved, and contract is a legally binding document. It need not be written down all the time. Even a oral agreement is a contract. Now and that's enforceable as per the law of many countries. And a contract, since it's legally binding, you need to be very careful in how you word it. It's understood that you are not a legal person, you are not a lawyer, nor are you a purchasing expert. So you will always have this legal team plus the purchasing team by your side when you are making these contracts. Usually companies have standard contracts and standard terms and conditions. They execute, they do not execute, they draw up the contract on your behalf. You just have to give them the inputs. What are the inputs? Basically, what is the work that has to be done? You have certain things actually for that, how the work is, what is the work to be done. You have certain things that you need to give. First of all, you have the so-called statement of work. Statement of work basically contains, you know what, my work, this is the work breakdown structure, these are the different things in the project, these are the timelines, the deadlines by which we need to deliver these individual deliverables, and this is the overall budget, and also review criteria or acceptance criteria. Most important, under these conditions I will accept the deliverables, because you have to clearly state, for my delivery to be accepted by me as completed, right, I need to basically see these conditions being satisfied. In agile world, they call it as definition of done. Definition of done usually is used to avoid any conflict. You say I have done it, I say no, you have not done it. No, these wrangles, legal or other wrangles. To avoid that, you basically write down very clearly, how do you want to see the product or the increment of the product if you are talking in agile world, and when will you accept. So these things are stipulated in the contract, and of course these terms and conditions are drawn up and added to the part of the contract along with the commercials and everything, and that's basically how you draw a contract. Generally in traditional project management, those of you who are PMPs already, right, you would have seen three major kinds of contract. First of them is a fixed price contract, where basically as the buyer, means you are the project manager, you are telling the seller, whatever happens, this is the price I am going to pay you, not a paisa more. Maybe some exceptions, some additions, some alterations could be done, but generally I'll pay you a fixed amount. You have to hook or crook, you have to execute the project under these conditions. I pay you say $1,000, $100,000, and that's it. So the risk basically, can someone tell me who bears the risk? You as a project manager or your supplier? Who bears the risk in a fixed price contract if there is a cost overrun? Buyer or seller? Who takes the risk?
Seller.
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 Because if there is cost overrun, he or she is not going to get any money more. Of course, you'll have some adjustments to this fixed price contract. FFP they call it, firm fixed price. One of them is incentive you have. You say, you know what, I'll pay you $100,000 for this, but you know what, I'm also under pressure from my customer to deliver it fast and with high quality. So if you have so many defects or lesser than so many defects, I will pay you an incentive. Or if you can deliver it, say 3 weeks ahead of schedule, I will give you an incentive. So that basically gives an incentive to the seller. So it's a win-win situation. They get this incentive, you get your work done earlier, but not all the time this is enforceable because it's at your discretion, right? There is another concept called EPA, economic price adjustment. FF with fixed, FP with EPA, FP EPA, fixed price with economic price adjustment. This is to manage inflation and all those things. You tell your customer yes, because usually for projects that run over a long term, they cover multiple inflation cycles, right? You say yes, I agree that the cost of materials will increase, there is inflation, so I will cover the inflation part. It's not an additional amount technically I am giving you, it is not an incentive, I will cover the economic price, right, adjustments that I will do for you. So this is another kind of fixed price contract. Then there is a second type of contract which is called cost plus, cost reimbursable, another word for it. Cost reimbursable contract basically means that you pay the customer, you pay your supplier based on whatever costs they are incurring and based on how much they invoice you. Here the risk is naturally with you as the buyer, because if the costs are overrun, you still have to pay them. Of course, you also have other types, like I'm going through very fast because the question here is about agile contracting, but I want to touch upon, because even in ACP these terms are very important. Don't think ACP means only agile contracting is there. You have to understand the basics of project management contracting before you get into agile contracting. So in the cost plus contract, sometimes you also give a say incentive. You tell the customer, you finish the project before this time, I will give you an incentive, or you manage the cost. You know what, I will pay you basically all the incentives and everything. I will pay you the cost that you are going to invoice me, but if you can bring the cost down, so if you can save me 20% cost, 10% of it I will feed back to you, I will give back to you. So this is also kind of an incentive. So this could either be based on the discretion, where it is called CPA, cost plus award. That award is based on your discretion, it's not legally enforceable, or it could be legally enforceable if you draw it as part of the contract, where it is like an incentive. You bring it down by 20% cost, I will pay you 10% of it back to you. So both of us win, right? At the end of the day, you still save 10%, they get money and everything. And then, so these are different kinds of cost plus contracts. Then you have the third type, which most of us are familiar with, time and material. Usually when the bigger scope of the project is known roughly, but the fine-tuned details, right, the finer details are not known, then you are going to deliver it, you have to split it and keep on delivering it repeatedly into different units. So you know what, inside each unit of work, you know what will be, but you don't know how many such units will be there. So this is called time and material. But then sometimes you have basically, when that puts the onus on the buyer, that is you, to fine tune your scope as early as possible, otherwise you will keep on developing that and you will keep on paying the seller. But also sometimes the seller also, if you are after some time, some value added work is coming down, because it's not always about money. Yeah, you keep on working, the buyer keeps on paying you, but that does not mean your resources are engaged, because after some time the work becomes routine, non-value added, and the buyer feels, yeah, I know what, it's peanuts I'm paying. Let us, anyway now we have a contract with the seller, let me keep taking the work, some stupid work, I will pay it, it's peanuts for me. They are earning a lot, but they are paying the seller only the standard thing, and your resources are getting demotivated because it's not value added work, or you want to take your resources out of the project and you want to put them somewhere else where there is value add for your organization, but you can't get out. So here also we have some other adjustments. For example, in time and material, you also have not to exceed clause, NTE, right? You say, I will keep on paying you only up to this extent where it does not exceed this amount. So this is one kind of not to exceed, and in agile world it's also very important, and this is where some special terms of an agile contract come in. Two major things. What I described you just now is a very ripe situation for something you call as money for nothing concept in agile. Money for nothing means you have, see, how do you work in agile? You have a product backlog, right? The product owner, right? I don't want to get into the basics of agile actually, so I will just quickly say, I assume that you know what the roles in agile are: product owner, scrum master, and the team, right? The three roles, at least in scrum. You as a product owner or building the product backlog, the to-do list, it's value prioritized and also risk prioritized, which means you are putting the highest value things first, you deliver early and as often as possible, and whatever will help you mitigate the risk you are doing first. And usually, unlike in traditional projects, agile projects, the scope is not fixed, the time is fixed, and the scope is variable. Unlike in a traditional project where the scope is fixed, you say how much time you need, how much budget you need. The discussion is flipped on its head, and now even the scope, since the scope is not fixed, there is nothing called 100%. You only deliver what gives value immediately to the customer and nothing more. Lean, right? You avoid waste. So sometimes you feel after having prioritized the product backlog, you see that the customer has got most of the value. And so for example, there is no meaning, there is still some 20% work done, see 80% work is over, but still some 20% work is still left. But you see that's not much value add. Even if you don't do, it doesn't make. So what do you, but contractually you are bound to pay the supplier. So you tell the supplier, you know what, I will pay you the remaining 20%. You have to do nothing. Money for nothing. I pay you for the remaining 20%. You pay me nothing. Win-win situation, because I can focus my resources, my energy and everything elsewhere, and I got my value. I don't need basically anything, because it's an agile project. You can always keep doing something, right? So I don't have to do everything, and for you, you are getting money without having to do much, because you agreed for a value that has been delivered. You can also move your resources elsewhere. You don't have to park resources in this place. So this is called money for nothing. You can terminate the project early when you feel that there is there's no longer any sufficient ROI in the product backlog. The other kind of interesting thing that you have in agile projects, right, agile contracting, is change for free. Now imagine you have agreed for a scope, but how does agile work? Agile is very receptive to change, right? One of the four values in agile manifesto, what is that? Responding to change over following a plan. That means at any time in the project, you should not be worrying about am I following a plan, because the markets may change, the customer requirements may change, the technology may change, anything. That's why we are having an agile way of managing the projects. Otherwise we will stick to our plain old traditional method, right? Now under such circumstances, when the change comes, you should not put the say supplier or you should not put say the customer in a fix. See, I am the customer, I am the project manager, you are my supplier. You should not put me in a fix, or let me see. Yeah, that means agile, it is built on the understanding that changes are frequent and they are to be expected. So the supplier also should be ready to make changes for free. Does not mean that, you know what, anyway I have a change for free clause, I will not give my supplier everything clearly intentionally, and then I will use a change for free clause in the contract, and I will, no, that's not the idea. The change for free basically means that you already have a well set plan, because agile does not mean not having a plan. Agile also you have a plan at a high level. How you are going to deliver the plan is what changes. How you do it based on a value and risk prioritized product backlog, and then you are constantly, every sprint, every iteration, every time box, every delivery cycle, you are constantly looking at the value that is being added, and the product backlog gets constantly refined. On top of it, you are also having something called backlog grooming, which you do regularly, right? Not as per the cycle of your sprint, but independently, and you are constantly looking, am I still getting the value, am I still deriving and delivering the value? And as you get the information from the deliveries that are already made, the increments to your product, you are changing it. When such things happen and the scope is changing because some new value has to be added, sometimes the supplier should be ready to supply it without demanding, going by a contract, and they should be able to do it for no additional fees or something, because sometimes a new feature gets added. Of course, it does not mean everything comes free, but within the scope of the product, as long as the change that is requested, for example either a feature change, an addition, or a new how to say slight say addition of items to your backlog and everything, they come, the supplier also should be ready to do it without insisting on the contract, without changing. So these are two things that you have money for nothing and change for free, that you can incorporate in your agile contracts. And usually it's also understood, because be going agile gives the benefit to you as a customer, where you can concentrate not on the work done, rather on the value that you are getting, so that you don't have to nitpick on every small delivery, every small timeline, rather you're working. And it gives you as a supplier also a breathing space, where you are not how to say, you don't have to justify every minute spent on the work, because you're not talking out of output anymore, you're talking of outcome. The outcome is basically the outcome of the sprint goal every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and the outcome, whether it is satisfied, it's good. If your team members, you're planning in such a way that only 70% of the time is occupied, it's okay. I don't want to pay for these hours because I saw them in a movie theater, or I saw them surfing or something. I don't want to pay. No, you got the outcome, you got the sprint goal, done. So this gives us a breathing space, and adding such clauses really creates a good working relationship, right, between the supplier and the customer. It's a more mature relationship it creates between the supplier and the customer. So this is basically about agile contracting. Maybe there are a couple of other things, just give me a moment. There are a couple of other things that may come as part of agile contracting. Just a moment. Yeah. Moment. Yes. Yeah, we talked about not to exceed clause, right, in time and material. And sometimes you also have a variation of this T&M, time and material contract. You call it as fixed scope and cost ceiling. So time and material is similar to not to exceed, but you say not just in terms of cost, you also, that's cost ceiling. You also say, for example, a fixed scope. My scope may keep evolving, but you know what, I will say buy at this point of time. After this, I will not engage, for example. So these are actually sealed T&M, CEILED, ceiling. No, sealed time and material contracts you have. And of course, the concept of fixed price and cost reimbursable contracts also work. But to summarize, at the end of the day, agile contracting, the difference between agile contract and traditional contract, project management contract, is in agile contract you always understand that what you write down at the beginning of the project need not be what is there at some other point of time during the project, because of the nature of an agile project. But still, that should not give a chance for people to run away from the responsibility, be it the supplier or be it the customer. So it also brings in some checks and balances, right, wherein the supplier and the customer are not unfairly treated within the context of the ever changing and evolving or emergent nature of an agile project environment. So this is in a nutshell is how something about agile contracting. Did it answer your questions, Srihari? Of course, you have a procurement expert, Tarun has joined. I just saw. Hey, Tarun. Yeah, am I audible still?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, you are audible.
Was this clear, my explanation? I hope I didn't take you all around and confuse you. I just started with a very generic difference between a traditional agile environment, talked about traditional project management, how contracts, why contracts are needed, then took you to the agile flavors, and then brought you back to the summary of what exactly is the key difference between an agile and a traditional contract. I hope this was understandable, right?
Theoretically, I would say yes, Bhuvan. From a book also, at least I have gone through. I also read them as a theory, but if I compare this to a traditional approach which we had, for example, your scope was fixed, then you quote for the project, then you win the project, then from there it moves on. So now that quoting part on a fixed scope is not possible. So how this whole cycle is linking up, that is where I was
No,
just wondering.
it's a misconception that still creating a fixed scope is not possible. No, it's not completely correct.
Hmm.
Because see, even in an agile environment, right, you have a scope at the end. See, when we say scope is not fixed, that doesn't mean you don't have a clearly understood scope at the beginning. Not entirely true. What moves is the composition of the scope. For example, see, at the end, I'll give you one example. So imagine you are making you are actually contracted to develop some features for a mobile phone. So you think there are certain features that you want to develop. On day one, you will still have a list of some 20 features. Yes or no? You will still have a list of 20 features, be it traditional or agile. But in
Yes.
traditional, you fix this 20 features you develop. If there is a new market requirement, right, that comes, or something new that has to be done, you say, no, wait, I'm busy actually executing my plan. I will bring it whenever possible later, because my timelines are long, and I will finish doing whatever I'm doing. Give me some 6 months. After that, I will take this up. You are not welcome to change so easily. It's not that you are close minded and you don't want to do it. The nature of your project, the contract you have, binds you to deliver, legally deliver what you agreed. But imagine agile environment, something like that comes. You say, hey, you know what? My competitor is going to bring in some features, 2 or 3 features that will invalidate some of the features in my product backlog, and if I'm going to continue developing, it adds no value. So can we replace them with some other features that will be at par with my competitors, or even better that, for example, can I, or even beat him to the market, time to market will be less, can we do something? So there you say, still my scope of delivering some or still my intent of delivering a scope to my customer, that still remains the same. I started with the fact that I have to deliver some features. The number may be 20, the number may change, but the end of the day, what goes in, I will still say, you know what, I'll be paying only for 20 features, but what those 20 features, that idea may change, for example. Or the fact that you are always putting, see, even the concept of 20 features, it's not always fixed all the time, because regularly you are grooming the product backlog, and when you are grooming this product backlog, after the first iteration, second iteration, and everything, like right, repeatedly, this prioritization keeps changing, which is ideal in common sense. Even in traditional project management, that's what should happen. So not being able to have a fixed scope is not anymore a bane, but it's actually a boon. So I would,
Uh,
it's not completely true, right, that in agile we will not have fixed scope. How you look into, sometimes within that iteration you are working on small iterations, so that gives you the option, whenever something changes and you need to redo something completely, do something different from what you planned, maximum period you have to wait for is 2 weeks or the length of the sprint. That's the
uh,
difference.
Hi, Bhuvan.
Yeah.
This is Tarun.
Hey Tarun.
I
Yeah.
think you pinged me. I mean, you called me, and by the time I got disconnected, and I was coming back.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
you were saying something to me, or
No, I was just saying our procurement expert Tarun is also here, because we are
okay,
discussing contracts, agile contracts. But yeah,
okay.
yeah. But Srihari, you are asking this question. Is this slightly? Does it answer your question or still no?
Somewhat, yes. Possibly, since at least for me, I don't have that real experience of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
That is why possibly that whole puzzle is not fitting in.
Mm-hmm.
But concept-wise, yes, that could be. That is how we would have to look at, or let's say that is how at the end would work.
That's the idea, because the
Yeah.
philosophy of why we need agile, that is the philosophy how we form the agile contracts also. Yeah, but even I, to be honest, I don't have experience, how to say, uh, uh, either drawing up or implementing agile contracts. So Yeah, my knowledge is also limited to what is there in the say ACP materials what we see.
But
Uh,
to be frank, some extent, what I have at least seen, couple of them, it is contracting is fixed, or let's say not the agile way, but then the projects are executed in agile
which
manner.
is a
So
dangerous thing. Which is a dangerous thing. You know this agile manifesto where they say customer collaboration over contract negotiation. One aspect
right,
of
right,
it, one aspect of it is yes. What all of us know is whenever there is the customer comes up with or the supplier comes up to you as a customer, or you go to your customer, for example, with some changes, suggestions based on your value. Don't crib about the contract. Don't say it is stated in the contract. I am delivering everything as per contract. So wait, or don't nitpick on the terms of the contract. Don't ask for all the legal procedures and for a new contract to be done and everything. That's true, but there's another dimension to it. It does not mean that you can freely do everything that is not in the contract just because you are working in agile projects. It also means that you set up the contract or you modify the contract as you go along in a way that makes life easy, because it's win-win. At the end of the day, remember, in supplier management, in procurement management, you cannot win or survive by killing the customer, also killing your supplier. It's very clear that any contract that's heavily biased towards you as a customer is a lose-lose thing only. Today the supplier loses, tomorrow you will lose. Always it should be a healthy relationship, a client, a repeat client relationship over a longer period of time. And that is why even on day one, if your contract is not agile, as you go along, you understand you're executing your project in agile way, as soon as possible update your contract in a way that some of these agile clauses come in picture. That is one interpretation
clear.
of this value in the manifesto. Yeah, it is an agile mindset. You're not just saying there are 4 values and 12 principles in agile, and I'm going to how to say follow it blindly. It's about mindset, and mindset basically means you are having a mindset where you are looking at the outcome, right, the value, and not at the output. I have given 20 deliverables, I have spent 40 hours at work, I have worked on weekends, late nights. Why am I paying the customer? Because when I looked pay my supplier, because I am seeing that his people are not working 100% of the time, they are always having fun. You got the value you wanted or not within the timeline, that's it. You think you can get more value, negotiate it. See if your supplier can deliver more. Deliver more, also be very careful. It's not about delivering more of work, but more of the value. And the value is always from the point of view of the business, right? Not in terms of number of hours added. If, for example, that's another good, it's a very good set of questions you are bringing in, Srihari, because see, if, for example, you think you have certain stories, right, in your product backlog, and together the team has evaluated that they come to 40 story points with the current number of people, say 6 to 9 people in the team with the current experience, background experience, knowledge and everything, they can deliver 40 story points in one sprint, say 2 weeks or 3 weeks long as a team. You should not ask them, can you deliver me more value? Do you need more value, first of all, in those 3 weeks? If some of the story points, they don't have a time pressure, they could be delivered a little later and you don't lose out on the market. Don't pressurize your supplier to deliver it simply because you feel that they are under representing their capability or capacity. So this is where business and the development team should be working very close. The development team should be very close to the business, right? This is another principle in agile. So, on the value points, there is always a misconception whenever in sprint reviews, or sorry, sprint planning meetings, right? How many story points? For example, imagine you have 3 people. One of them is Srihari, who has 0 experience in agile. One is Deepa, who is medium experienced, and another one is say for example Nilesh, who is extremely experienced. And Nilesh thinks it carries only 5 story points because he thinks he can do it in 10 hours. Deepa thinks it can be done in, thinks it needs 10 story points or whatever the next number in the Fibonacci series is, because She thinks it takes 20 hours. Srihari is sitting and blinking actually. I am new, I don't even understand what it is. But you know what? Why should I overcommit? Let me undercommit, and I am a newbie, so everyone will understand, they will support me. He says 100 story points. No. Story point has nothing. See, a story point is relative estimation. It's a size. It has nothing to do directly with the number of hours. Just because Nilesh can do it in half the time as Deepa does not mean he can give half the story points or Deepa has to give double the story points. It's a value, right? It's relative size. How complex is any task compared to a reference task? That means it's not between Nilesh, Deepa and Srihari. Rather, you know what? This new module, we need to write 20 test cases, out of which 5 test cases we are taking over from the previous module. So 15 new modules we need to write. So this module is 3 times as complex as the previous module. And you know, in the previous sprint iteration I gave say 5 story points. So since it is 3 times as complex, because instead of 5 test cases I need to write 15 extra test cases and maybe some tinkering of this existing 5 cases something, I may give 15 story points, maybe. Or you know, last time when we had to write the 5 test cases, we were not so experienced. Now we have the experience of writing those 5 test cases, implementing, testing them. Now today if we have to do the same 5 test cases, the story point I'll give you is only 2, and this is 3 times as complex as that. Maybe 8 story points, 6 or 8 story points I will give. This is relative sizing, you understand? And when you have, and that is why it's not about, hey, last time you could do 40 story points, for the last for the last 3 months over say 2 iterations in a month, right? 2 time boxes in a month, so 6 over the last 6 sprint cycles you guys have been constantly delivering 40 story points. Now I want more. Can you deliver me 80 story points? Your guys have got more experienced. This is fish market bargaining. Agile does not work. You don't simply increase the velocity of your team simply because you got more experience, because the nature of the work changes, right? Your learning changes, new complexities come into picture, all these factors, right? It's binding. So this fish market bargaining of I want more for the same price, right? That simply does not work. And when you are drawing up contract, or when you are looking at a contract as a supplier also, right, be very careful of these mindset failures. Bit more clear? It's the philosophy of how you handle agile projects.
Yeah.
Yep. So any other questions either related to agile contracts or anything? Now the time is almost 3 o'clock, but I know we also were waiting for people. We started a little late, like 10-15 minutes or something. If you guys are okay, we can also extend it for another, I don't know, 15 minutes or something if you're okay. Those of you who want to wish to stay. Any other questions you have?
I have a small question regarding
Yes.
the inputs, tools, and techniques and outputs. I'm getting a bit confused in them.
Could you repeat your question, please?
This is this is regarding how to get the inputs, tools, and techniques and the outputs. I get confused in them as well.
Are you a PMP candidate?
Yes,
Okay.
actually, I'm preparing for the last 6 months, but
Okay.
yeah, I'm
Okay,
good
last 6 months
practices.
means, yeah, okay, beautiful. You are the intersection of old and new. Okay,
Yep.
one thing about ITTOs, I will tell you. Yes, there is both sides of the story. Generally, I would tell you, don't try to memorize ITTOs. Okay, don't try to mechanically or robotically memorize ITTOs. You should have a mechanism, some mnemonic system, right, where you understand the philosophy, the principle of what it means. How many processes are there in PMBOK 6? 49, right, spread over 10 knowledge areas and 5 process groups. And for 49 processes you have 49 sets of inputs, tools, techniques and outputs. The best way to remember them is to start from the bigger picture. Don't start process by process in whatever sequence. Look at the bigger picture, see how it's interconnected, all these 49 processes are. Some things will help. I will share again on our WhatsApp group. It's also on the internet freely available. Ricardo Vargas, he's a very senior project manager. He's famous in PMI community. Ricardo Vargas basically, he's a Brazilian. He basically has given the chart where he has, you can print it out into A3, where you talk only of the boxes, ITTOs, or A0, which is a bigger sheet where you can have all the processed, all the flows and everything also inside. I will share both the versions with you. You can get it on the internet by typing Ricardo Vargas process chart. There he talks about the different interconnections, how information flows smoothly. See, to put it in a nutshell, in 1 minute you want to explain to me what PMBOK is. Here it is. You start the timer. First, you define what you have to do, scope, how much time you have got to do that, and when should you start and end, scope, schedule or time management or schedule management, how much money you have got to do it, budget, what are the fitness for use requirements, expectations that the product has to satisfy for the customer, satisfying the customer, right? Quality. Who are all the right people, the right skill sets needed, when they should start, what percentage availability they should be available, what are the physical resources needed, that is resource management. Then what are the communication expectations, who talks to whom about what, in what sequence, in what format and everything, formal, informal, all these things, communication management. What are the things that can go wrong, what are the opportunities you can leverage, what are the threats that you need to face, how to respond to them, that's risk management. Then can you make everything in-house or you have to buy something from outside, how do you manage that, people or entities external to your organization, procurement management. Then who are all the people who can impact your project positively or negatively, and who can be impacted by them, what is the current level of engagement, are they for or against your project, how can you increase the level of engagement to the desired level, that's stakeholder management. All these things, how you bind together so that it forms the right sequence, the right pieces fit in the puzzle, that's integration management. 1 minute, this is PMBOK. Yeah. Now this big picture you need to understand. Once you have understood this big picture of what PMBOK is, you will also know how one thing flows into other. Then you will see patterns automatically. You remember this film Beautiful Mind, right? Russell Crowe. He can think, he can see patterns where others don't see anything. So like that you will start seeing patterns the moment, this is called internalizing the big picture. Once you have internalized it by understanding from different charts and everything, like I told you now, you will see how information starts from somewhere and flows, and once you get a feel, an internal feel for it, and internalized now, then you don't have to memorize anymore. This is one side of the coin. The other side of the coin, though I tell you you should not memorize it, I am talking about the process. At the end of the day, you should know it by heart. You should know ITTOs by heart, but the way to do it is not to memorize by rote. And there are techniques. For example, use flashcards. Once you have got the Ricardo Vargas chart, you have got some internalization and everything. You know the data flow diagram, in every process they would give, in addition to the ITTO, they would also give a data flow diagram. Understand that, spend some time to understand that. That's the most boring and most irritating, probably looking tough also, part of your learning. But once you spend some time, the 49 data flow diagrams and the overall data flow diagrams across, right, you understand that in PMBOK, then you start making flashcards for each of the 49 processes. It helps a lot. So this is one trick actually, how to get ITTOs. Did it help you?
Yeah, I'm going to try this out.
Try it. Try one or two, for example, processes, and then you'll get the flow for it. Start from the earliest ones, right? Start from scope. Don't start with integration. Integration always do at the end. Start from the scope, or if you feel scope, schedule, cost, you are jumping right into the meat of project management. So maybe you can try some say lecture part kind of thing, like resource management, stakeholder management, communication, the so-called easy parts. That will be also good for you.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm placing this recording of this session also in our PM VRTTA channel. So you can visit the my videos part of, there will be my videos on the channel. You can also go through all the old videos. We have discussed about ITTOs also in the past. We have discussed one of the videos. We have talked about specific say topics like earned value management. Everything is there. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I think one other thing, I would say, is if someone is interested and then they know about mind map, they can try with that also, and then it will help in understanding the flow.
Yep.
At the same time, also going through the ITTOs. So it really gives a good overview. I tried it when I was preparing for the exam, so
Wonderful,
that
wonderful
can also
encouragement.
help.
It's amazing. Mind map is a kind of a data flow diagram. It organizes your brain, your thoughts, creates associations, right, between linked concepts, theory, and everything. I hope all of you have heard of mind map, right? You know what mind map is. So start from the center, branch out. You can start from for each process, right? Okay, you can have, for example, the center. You can have integration, management, then the big bubbles, scope, schedule, cost, and then you can have small branches out of these bubbles and try to link. Mind map is an amazing technique, and there are ready-made mind maps. I will share some mind maps I got in the past. In the past I have done it actually, I have shared it on the group, but since WhatsApp does not allow you to see past messages na, before you join the group, I can share it again, this thing, unlike Telegram, right? So I will share it again. So two things I will note down. One is this Ricardo Vargas chart, and another is the mind maps. I will check. Someone can remind me also in the group, hey Bhuvan, you told me something you forgot. I will share it.
Additionally, Bhuvan, when I agree to both of yours and Tarun's inputs on ITTO, but at the end, PMI does not directly ask you in a question format saying what is the ITTO for this. So that is
Generally
my
not.
understanding.
Generally not,
Yeah.
George. Sometimes it does ask. Yeah, agreed. It does not use the words input, tools, techniques, outputs. But you know the way it
Correct. It
asks
would.
is slightly different, which actually talks of ITOs. It says what comes next. What comes
Yeah.
next? For
Or
example, yeah. Sorry. Go on.
rather a scenario based, possibly you have something like this. What would you do, or what you? So I think more than understanding ITTO, as you told, understanding the flow itself would
More important.
help
It's
there
an
a lot.
end in itself. Yeah, it's an end in itself. It's correct. In fact, one example, you say as a project manager, you are actually now, you joined a project in the middle as a new project manager because the old project manager left abruptly because of some conflicts. And now you are not understanding the head or tail of what is going on. You already got an idea about who the team members are. You also have a list in front of you that talks about what the expectations from each of them are. What do you do next? So when such questions come, you have to interpret the sentence and relate it to the processes. You joined the project abruptly in place of another PM who left abruptly. Beautiful. You are looking at a list of people and their expectations. What is that thing called? Can someone tell me? List of your not the team members, everyone. What is the
Stakeholder.
stakeholder register? A stakeholder register is not just a telephone directory. It contains a list of people, their expectations and everything. Are they resistant stakeholders? Are they your advocates, strong stakeholders? Are they neutral? Are they unaware? All this. So what do you do next? So now you know that you have, basically we are talking of stakeholder register. What comes as an output of stakeholder register? Stakeholder, for example, stakeholder register is an input to many of the things. For example, you will do stakeholder engagement, manage stakeholder engagement, for example. You try to do that, or you try to sit with the people and try to understand what is going on in the project. Maybe you look at the work performance information, for example, how the project, you see whether the project was failing or progressing. You see the CPIs, SPIs and all these things you see, right? Any of these things. So depending on the 4 options given to you, you will choose. Some of them will be like atrocious, right? You can eliminate them. The process of elimination, you can eliminate 1 or 2 out of the 4 options. So this is how, and all these things, as Srihari also was saying and Tarun was saying, unless you are able to link the big picture and all the components, how data flows between the components, it's not so easy, right, to memorize. You don't have to memorize at the end of the day. But remember, still some examination techniques are needed. As I said, this is another examination. Just because you're PMP certified does not make you a super project manager. Just because you don't have PMP doesn't make you a dumb guy also. Right? So sometimes the aim of these preparations is not to make you an expert in project management. If that happens, good, well and good. But the aim is to prepare you for another examination. So standard exam preparation techniques help here. One of them is, of course, learning by rote, memorizing. Sometimes you have to memorize something, but don't have memorization as your base thing, right? Another thing is quick reading. How quickly you can read the questions, big question, 20 lines or 10, 5, 6 lines are given, occupying the entire screen in your exam. So how do you quickly read an extract? How do you look for keywords? Not, always, best, next, first, last, except. All these things, now how you look at very quickly, how you eliminate questions, how you read the answers and eliminate quickly the questions. For example, stamina, the mock exam, that's what they say, be it PMP, ACP. The mock exams are not just to test your knowledge. Very rarely we take 3-hour or 4-hour examinations in our life, uninterrupted, right? So simulate the physical and mental strain that it will take upon you, and the distribution of questions, the difficulty level of questions should mimic the real examination. It should not be too tough where you get demotivated, or too easy it gives you no information. So these are some things that you can do to how you can choose a mock exam, how you can prepare yourself for the examination. This all ties up with exam preparation. So understand, it's just another examination, right? PMP or ACP. Any other questions? Yep.
I think at least I had enough for today.
Okay. I hope actually the concept. I think there was another person. I don't think she's in the call. She pinged me separately. She wanted to talk about not value-based prioritization, value stream mapping or something. Maybe we can also talk about it in one of these sessions. So if it's okay for you, we can have it theoretically every week, every Sunday, or if Saturday is okay for you, we can also do it on a Saturday, or whichever. Because I believe I don't know which one of you is from UAE. Because for you Saturdays and Sundays are not holidays, I understand, right? Or Friday and Saturday are holidays.
US Saturday is holiday, Sunday is not.
Friday and
UAE.
Saturday are holidays. Yeah. So let me know actually which day and something. See, by default we will force ourselves to meet once a week on a Saturday or a Sunday, and then we will see. We'll take up. See, this hot seat format, right? Ask me anything is really good because we try to have a free flowing discussion like now. Otherwise, preparing a topic and there's another lecture, we don't, that you can have thousands of videos on the internet you can get. So bring up topics offline on the PM VRTTA group. Now please suggest topics that we can have for next discussion. We can collate, keep the information flowing, so we can collate it and then we can choose topics for discussion like this. I hope this session was useful to you. Yeah. Any last questions before we close?
Yes, Bhuvan, the session was really nice and informative. And I am really, able to connect, because this will be a platform for me, at least as a project manager, that, things that don't get clarified normally are getting clarified here. Thanks for your
no problem, because sometimes demystifying the concepts is really important, because our first aim is of course to pass the examination, but some of you may already have PMP and you're not going for any certification. Now you're simply here for the spirit of learning, so it's important to understand the concept. You'll feel, oh God, how great if I had known this before my PMP, I could have maybe been a bit more satisfied when writing the exam. But it's good, it's always learning. Otherwise PMP will have a lifelong validity, right? You have only 3 years validity. Why they tell you have to constantly update yourself and get the PDUs? Because you have to be constantly up to date with what is going on. So in that way, these refresher sessions will also be good. And yeah, you can also, see, officially you cannot claim PDU for these sessions, but you can call this as self-learning. There are self-learning PDUs. You can read a book simply and say claim PDU. So you can refer these sessions, and if you need any information, I can share with you, and you can call this as self-learning PDUs also. So this is a way of learning actually, and sharing what you know. I share what I know, or it's like that. Yeah, it helps. Bring in such topics, bring in your different perspectives and everything, questions, your experiences. We can have it as a share of experience session, right? That helps. Good. Nice. Then thanks everyone for joining again. Maybe meet you next week again, and I will put this video on the PM VRTTA channel. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Have a nice evening. Bye.
Thank you, Bhuvan.
Stay safe.
Bye.
Yeah? Bye.
Good day.
Bye.